You don't listen, no, I got a story to tell about a guy named Logan, who's so swell. He's the G.I. Joe gamer. Cool and weird, talking about those characters, heroes, and villains at midnight we shout. Yo, Joe, or Cobra, talking about the Joe team and a Cobra tie. Joe's got snake eyes, a silent ninja in black. Quick with his swords, he'll give you a heart attack. Then there's Duke the leader, so bold, gung-ho, always ready to fight and make those cameos. And we can't forget about Scarlet, the ultimate girl power. A fierce warrior, she'll make her enemies cower. Cobra's got Destro to supply the weapons. Cobra command plots and schemes, she ruling the world in his dreams. Zartan is never what he seems, and Baroness rocks that black leather outfit, shoots you quick and slip out the back of the head. Yo, Joe, Cobra, go! Logan's here to give his G.I. Joe taste. Oh yeah, yo, Joe, Cobra, about the characters, it's a G.I. Joe thing. In the shadow of his uncle's fall, a silent vow he'd avenge it all. The mark of Cobra on his hand, a warrior lost in a shattered land. Through the serpent's lair his blade would sing, but truth is a cruel and haunting thing. A brother's bond, a fractured fate. Storms will clash, but it's never too late. Stormshadow, torn in two, a soul divided red and blue. From Cobra's grasp to the Joe team's light, seeking redemption, a ninja's fight. Like a blade shining in the night, Stormshadow will set things right. A shadow guide through the storm where honor died. Two brothers once in fire and pain, now united, loyalty binds them again. Arashikai's ghost still calls to rebuild what crumbled walls, but the scars of war run deep and wide in the ninja's heart where secrets hide. Stormshadow, torn in two, a soul divided red and blue. From Cobra's grasp to the Joe team's light, seek promise won't fade. A heavy price for the choices made, but in the mirror of his brother's face, he finds a path, a saving grace. Now he fights for a nobler cause, his blade for peace, not Cobra's claws. Through battles fierce, his soul he'll prove, to honor the name he once removed. The Reissued will rise once more, a clan reborn from the winds of war. Storms may rage, but he'll stand tall, a shadow turned to save us all. Oh, Stormshadow, now renewed, a soul united, tried and true. From Cobra's grasp to the Joe team's might, redemption found in a ninja's fight. Heart is true, but soul is blue. Through the storm, through the pain, a shadow's honor reclaimed again. Brother to brother, side by side, a ninja's path where shadows collide. Through the storm, through the pain, a shadow's honor reclaimed again. Brother to brother, side by side, a ninja's path where shadows collide.
Greetings, I'm Christopher Logan Hill, and today on Joe Takes from the Hilt we are taking a look at Stormshadow. Now, we're going to try to talk about and answer the age-old question of whether Stormshadow should be a G.I. Joe or a Cobra. Now, we'll get to that, but we'll start with the figures. And now for the accessories of my vintage stuff, I had set them aside so I wouldn't lose them, so naturally I forgot where I set them aside to. So I don't have those to show you today, but I look everywhere. I don't know where they are, but here's my vintage Stormshadow. He is missing a thumb, but other than that, he's really intact. Well, I'm pretty sure that's not his original crotch. I went through all my stuff and I looked at the below got. I'm thinking that's a dojo crotch, but it fit really well and hard to notice. And I probably swapped it out because the original broke. But I ended up getting in the 2000s. I ended up getting a comic pack with Snake Eyes and a Red Ninja, and it came with this version. So I have a really good version of Stormshadow for you to look at today. Now, Stormshadow, like I said, the accessories that came with this, like I said, I had put them aside, but I have misplaced where I put them, so I feel really, really good today about that. Yes, sir. Now, in the comics, G.I. Joe, Stormshadow went from being a Cobra to joining forces with Snake Eyes to hunt down the killer of his uncle and their original sensei, the Hardmaster. And that's a really cool story arc, and this is one of my favorite covers of G.I. Joe, because you've got Snake Eyes and Stormshadow there together, fighting Cobra, but yet Stormshadow was still in his Cobra outfit, and I thought that was great, because he hadn't fully transitioned to a G.I. Joe yet, but he was definitely no longer Cobra at that point. I'm not going to spoil what happens for you. That you should go back and check all the 155 issue run of Marvel's A Real American Hero out. They have some really nice collected volumes, so it's fairly easy to find. If not, it's pretty expensive to get it all. I'm still working on it, but I do have most of the original series from back when I was collecting it. Now that takes us to Stormshadow as a G.I. Joe. Now, I don't have my vintage version of this figure. I used it for parts because I don't know. At the time, it wasn't my favorite. I wish I had, but that's just how it goes. I'll probably end up picking up another one down the line here, but this 25th anniversary Stormshadow is pretty good. I mean, it definitely captures the essence of what he looked like as a G.I. Joe, and I really like this one. Now, they did later on, for the retro line, not too long ago, come out with a Stormshadow in his original outfit, but it looks way different. Now, as you can see, it has all the earmarks of the original. This, like I said, this one doesn't have sleeves, but they did a pretty good job on the retro line of capturing the essence of this particular Stormshadow. Now, for the classified, they came out with, so far, 4 different versions of Stormshadow. I have 3. I don't have the new retro one yet, but I'm going to look at the movie one first, because I want to go over the differences between the other two, because you'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. But the movie Stormshadow is hit and miss. I mean, I know the head of the actor who played him, that's actually a fairly decent likeness. I'm not real hip on the color. For me, it actually makes more sense that he has the off-white instead of the lighter white as a ninja. And he's number 17 in the series. But the box art wasn't bad. I mean, it represented who Stormshadow was in the movie. And to me, the Snake Eyes origin movie is really a Stormshadow movie. But that's just my opinion. I think they didn't do bad, but they could have done a lot better. So that takes us to the first classified figure that came out, and that would be the Arctic Mission Stormshadow. Now, he's listed as a Cobra, but this was definitely his second G.I. Joe outfit, and this is the one where he was the Ninja Force leader. Now, the artwork here is it's okay. He's number 14 in this series, but on the side it's a bit better. But you know, for Stormshadow's first appearance in the classified, and for it to be an exclusive, it was, I don't know, it seemed to be a bit of a letdown to me. But then they finally kind of got it right with this Stormshadow, who ended up being number 35 in the series, which is way into it so far. Well, they're actually about ready to hit the 90s and stuff. We got some the 60s that are out already. But yeah, the box art was pretty good. For some reason, when I looked for a picture of it, it didn't include this top part, but that saves it for the video, so I think that's kind of cool too. But it did have this bit here, and it, the scan I found of it was pretty cool. But Stormshadow, I think he looked better in his Cobra uniform. I do like the second one. This one here, where he his first G.I. Joe uniform. I do like it better than the Ninja Force one. I like the fact on this 25th anniversary figure that rope moves, and I think they did a pretty good job with the 25th anniversary and the retro line. I do like the way these figures move. It was interesting that he came with a fan. I mean, I know he came with quite a few accessories, but that takes us to the actual classified figure. Now, this figure, I think, is incredible. A lot of people are disappointed by the fact that he didn't come with tattoos on his arms. I do like the fact that he doesn't have sleeves like on this comic book figure. I think it's more of an homage to this one. This is why I really brought this one out, more so than just because it's a better, nicer looking figure. I did have to replace the O-ring on my vintage figure, naturally. Now, this bow that he comes with, I do like it. I'm pretty sure it's the same one that came in the Arctic Mission pack, but I'd have to actually break them out and compare them at the same time. But there's this little notch in the bow where you can this arrow comes with it, and you can actually clip it in, and it holds it in place really well. It's kind of cool. Now I'm going to take the arrow out, the little arrow, and I'm going to put it in the backpack like it goes, and it slides right into place in the backpack. And I think that's a really nice touch. You can't even tell that it's an extra piece, but it comes right out and slides right back in. The swords. Now see, I always had issues with this backpack, so I'm going to take it off here and show you. This is definitely an homage to the original. The original used to pop open and the bow would go inside. His bow snaps onto the back of this. The bow went on the outside, and a pair of nunchucks went inside. He didn't come with a pair of nunchucks in the classified, but the original one did. Now these swords, they're pretty good. I like the dragon heads on the pommel. It's really cool. At least I think so. And he's got his. Is it a Ninjato or a Wakizashi? We're not sure. It's probably a Ninjato because he's supposed to be a ninja. And if I can see what I'm doing there. And then you got his, his katana, which is pretty cool. So yeah, this holds all his accessories, and I like that aspect of it. However, when you are trying to use it for what he has on his bow, if you put it on his backpack like that, you either have the swords up where you can reach them, or the arrows. And maybe it's just me, but it's kind of a gripe because he's constantly either moving his backpack around or using his left hand to grab arrows out of his backpack, which if he's got his bow in his left hand and he's firing with his right hand, which is the way the figure is set up to do it, he really, how's he going to reach clear over on the left side to get his arrow with his right hand? To me, I didn't get it. I don't know why they did it that way. Also, this hood, I like that it comes off because he looks so much better without it. I mean, this figure is a hit for me. I really like it. I like the fact that they put gray on his leggings there, on his calves, and I've got him on a generic battle stand. I also like the fact that I'm a sucker for tassels on ninjas. I don't know why, the little things that hang off their belts. I think that's a cool and nice touch. I don't know why they did it, but it looks cool. That's probably why they did it. But this piece comes off, I don't take it off because I like to leave it on there. I know that if you keep taking things on and off figures, it wears the plastic over time, so I like to just leave it. The accessory on the bow has I don't know if you can see that in the video, but let me take it out of his hand here and I'll take a look at it. But it's got a red handle, and I think that's kind of cool. And like I said, I love the fact that it has the little clip there, so you can put the arrow, you can slot it right in there, and how it makes it so when you're posing him, you can definitely get some pretty dynamic shots, like I did my little trailer I did for this video. I really like this Stormshadow. I'm glad that I was able to pick it up, and when I was doing my top 10 list, I was kind of surprised that Stormshadow wasn't actually in my top 10, because I really like this character. But then again, I like so many characters in G.I. Joe. It's hard to differentiate a top 10. But what's interesting is he's on both lists. He's on G.I. Joe and Cobra. And when I was compiling my list, the way I did it was I put them by years, and I made whatever the top 10 was. I'd go and compare that to the next year, and whichever figure I like more, I would start it there and have my top figures from each year. I molded them in together until I got my top 10. Actually, I did them all. I have my list all the way up. I'm pretty sure for G.I. Joe it's 250, and Cobra it's a little over 200, or exactly 200 if I remember right, or close to 200. But Stormshadow, ironically enough, came out as number 19 on both my G.I. Joe and my Cobra list. I didn't even plan it that way, so I thought that was pretty cool. Interesting, but cool. So yeah, I like 18 Cobras better than Stormshadow, and 18 Joes better than Stormshadow. However, that's in the field of nearly 500 characters. That's still pretty impressive. Definitely in my top 50. And so when you have so many characters in a storyline, 50 in your 19, I think is pretty cool. And he is one of my favorites. I enjoy the figure, and I had so much fun playing Stormshadow as a bad guy. So the question is, do we prefer Stormshadow as a G.I. Joe or Cobra? Now, when I'm doing my own storylines, I like Stormshadow as a bad guy. He's the Cobra Ninja. However, reading this Larry Hall run in the Marvel comics, and now in the IDW, and in the new ones he's going to be doing, Stormshadow transitioned almost seamlessly from a Cobra to a Joe, because his whole purpose was to find his uncle's murder that he was blamed for. And him and Snake Eyes together as Ninja Brothers, I like that a lot. So it's kind of a mixed bag for me. Is he a G.I. Joe? Is he a Cobra? And then in the IDW run, they had a bit where Stormshadow was brainwashed, and Snake Eyes rescued him and brought him back to the Joes after Cobra Commander had brought him back to Cobra for a little while. But then Snake Eyes got captured and he was brainwashed, and then Stormshadow rescued him. And storytelling, it can be a lot of fun sometimes. But I do love this Real American Hero run, and this cover is great. Now, where does he fall into the Cobra hierarchy? The way I see it in the actual line, he's their Cobra Ninja. A lot of times they show him as, like in the cartoon, he showed up with Destro, but yet he was loyal to Cobra Commander, to the point where when Cobra Commander was trying to hire somebody to kill Serpentor, Stormshadow was with him. When the last episode of the second season of Sunbow, Stormshadow was right with Cobra Commander, Destro, and Firefly when Cobra Commander was plotting to get rid of Serpentor. So it's hard to say where he falls. Now in the cartoon, his antagonist was Spirit until he got to the decline, and that whole storyline where with Snake Eyes and the Ninja Force. It was okay. It wasn't one of their better episodes for the Deke, but it wasn't one of their worst episodes. You'd have to check that out. It's been a while since I watched it. I think I watched it once and fell asleep through half of it, but it's been a while since I watched it. So in Cobra, he was Cobra Commander's bodyguard in the comics, and whenever he needed a serious mission, he sent in Stormshadow. He was the go-to guy, and Cobra Commander didn't want to give that up. I get that. I mean, Stormshadow is probably one of the deadliest characters in G.I. Joe. So in my head canon, what happened was Stormshadow transitioned over and went to the Joes. Cobra Commander managed to get some of his DNA and cloned him. So Cobra Commander now has, in my storyline, several Stormshadow clones. Now, understand that they are clones, but that Stormshadow is a traitor. That's the way they see it. So it's sort of like with the Red Ninjas. The Red Ninjas stayed working for Cobra, but Stormshadow did not, and Stormshadow trained a lot of those Red Ninjas for Cobra. So it's kind of hard to fathom the Cobra hierarchy, like I've said many times before. But Stormshadow doesn't really have a place in the hierarchy per se. I really don't want to go into that now. As far as G.I. Joe, it's pretty easy. His file card lists him as an E8, which is a Master Sergeant or First Sergeant, which would make him the First Sergeant of the Ninja Force. But yet, they always seemed in the comics to put Snake Eyes as the leader of that team. And then when Scarlet kind of joined the Ninja Force in the comics, I don't know. In my head canon, Scarlet was the lieutenant, and Snake Eyes and Stormshadow were like the co-leaders, and they were both Master Sergeants. Even though Snake Eyes' file cards didn't show him as a Master Sergeant until a lot later. But Stormshadow originally was listed as an E5. A lot of people don't think that Stormshadow had a rank in G.I. Joe, but he did. And then when he became the leader of the Ninja Force, he was an E8. So, but yet Dojo, I think one of them, Dojo or Chibang, was also an E8. There was a E7, which is a Sergeant First Class, and then Nunchuck was an E5. But that was the original Ninja Force. And they were pretty cool. Then later on they added Bushido, the Snow Ninja, and Bonsai, which I like those characters too. But I don't think they were in anything. I don't think, except for maybe the Devil's Due run, America's Elite, G.I. Joe. I'm not really sure. I didn't get a lot of those. I have some of them. But the America's Elite, that series, I liked how it ended with the World War III, where Cobra set up World War III. So there's some interesting storytelling. It's not Hama. It's not the Hamaverse, but it's somebody else's headcanon. Like, I have my headcanon. A lot of you have your headcanon. And Larry Hama, he's got his, is it canon? It is Larry Hama's canon, and that's the way I see that. Now, so favorite moments of the cartoon, the Sunbow cartoon. It's hard to say. I do love right away. He had an interaction with Spirit, where they were fighting over that box. I can't remember what it was called at this moment in time. For some reason, it's right out of my head. But where they used it, and they got trapped underground in a cave with water, and they used it to breathe underneath why they got shot up out of it. And then later on, him and Spirit went back and forth, whether they're fighting or trying to save each other. It was kind of weird. I mean, they didn't hate each other, but yet they respected each other, but they were definitely enemies. So I like that aspect. But my favorite all-time cartoon, Sunbow cartoon, was where Stormshadow got the Excalibur sword, and the name of the episode is Excalibur. There are so many moments in that Excalibur episode that are just incredibly cool. Especially the interaction between Duke and Flint, where Flint was pretty much asking for anything he wanted, and it happened. It came true, and it was really, you could tell it was kind of annoying Duke, but and that had nothing to do with the Stormshadow storyline, but it was funny. But he, like I said, Stormshadow got a hold of the sword Excalibur because they were on a mission in Britain, and it was pretty cool. So definitely, if you haven't seen the Sunbow episode of the first season Excalibur with Stormshadow, check that out. He even flies a rattler at the beginning of that. It's like, oh, Stormshadow's a pilot now too. So, yeah, the cartoon had issues. Whether Stormshadow is a pilot, I don't think they ever said one way or another in the comics, but they all knew how to fly jets in the cartoon. But which, yeah, that's a skill that not all soldiers have, but well, apparently all the Joes and Cobras can do it. So that takes us to the comic book. I've kind of already mentioned many storylines that I love. Again, I love the whole saga. It's hard to pin down a favorite moment, but I think my favorite moment, and I'm pretty sure it's in this issue, but it's been a while since I've read this, but is where they're storming a beach on Cobra Island, and the Baroness guns Stormshadow down. I mean, it sounds kind of weird, because technically he was killed in that moment, but what he did was he used a ninja technique and slowed his heartbeat down. And like I said, you'll have to read it. Stormshadow is an awesome character, an incredibly skilled ninja. I think he's a better ninja than Snake Eyes. Snake Eyes definitely is tougher, but that has to do with the combination of his commando skills and his ninja skills together. And I know you can be a ninja and be a commando. You can be a ranger and you can be a commando. Commando is kind of a generic term for special forces troopers, but Snake Eyes is the only G.I. Joe commando, with one exception, and that's Shipwreck. On one figure was listed as the naval commando, and I'm pretty sure that those are the only two figures listed as commando, but Snake Eyes is the only one that's strictly the commando. And Stormshadow, original ninja, as far as the action figures are concerned. I know Snake Eyes was a ninja too, but that was revealed later. So where do you put yourself on this issue? You got to ask yourself: is Stormshadow a G.I. Joe, or is he a Cobra? Like I said, in my headcanon, he's both. So I don't personally answer that question, and only you as a fan can determine whether you think he should be a G.I. Joe or a Cobra. Now, Larry Hama obviously sees him as a G.I. Joe, because that's the way he is in the storyline now, and that's the way he transitioned through his whole story arc in the comic book. Now, in other mediums, like almost all of the cartoon except for the Sunbow, he was a Cobra. So a lot of fans love him as a Cobra, and I'm sorry, this figure right here shows it all. I mean, this is definitely his coolest look. Now, I actually, when he in the comic books, when he took on Cobra Commander's son Billy as an apprentice, Billy ended up wearing this uniform, and I don't know, he just didn't fill it out as well as Stormshadow. Stormshadow to me is one of the most important characters in the G.I. Joe storyline. I found him to, without Stormshadow, you wouldn't have the popularity that Snake Eyes has. At least I don't believe so. I mean, right from issue 21, Silent Interlude, where Stormshadow kidnaps Scarlet, and Snake Eyes goes to rescue her, but she rescues herself, and they end up escaping together. If you haven't read Silent Interlude, which really you don't have to do much reading, it's just looking at the pictures and maybe sound effects. That was an innovative comic, and it's definitely worth checking out. But that was Stormshadow's first appearance in the comics, and it just, for me, it got better. Stormshadow is a great character. So that takes us to this portion of this episode of Joe Takes. And my question: is Stormshadow a G.I. Joe or Cobra? For me, he's both. And you gotta answer that yourself. What is he for you? Is he a G.I. Joe? Or is he a Cobra? And with that all being said, Logan out.
In the shadow of his uncle's fall, a silent vow he'd avenge it all. The mark of Cobra on his hand, a warrior lost in a shattered land. Through the serpent's lair his blade would sing, but truth is a cruel and haunting thing. A brother's bond, a fractured fate. Storms will clash, but it's never too late. Stormshadow, torn in two, a soul divided red and blue. From Cobra's grasp to the Joe team's light, seeking redemption, a ninja's fight. Like a blade shining in the night, Stormshadow will set things right. A shadow guide through the storm where honor died. Two brothers once in fire and pain, now united, loyalty binds them again. Reissued's ghost still calls to rebuild what crumbled walls. But the scars of war run deep and wide in the ninja's heart where secrets hide. Stormshadow, torn in two, a soul divided red and blue. From Cobra's grasp to the Joe team's light, seeking redemption, a ninja's fight. Like a blade shining in the night, Stormshadow will set things right.
Chicago, birthplace. Classified, primary specialty. Assassin, sabotage, demolition, terror. Secondary specialty. Intelligence, qualified expert. Long haul, katana. Throwing stars, nunchuck sticks. 8th-degree black belt in my martial arts. Logan Shadow can trace his family history through 30 generations of assassins. He can scale sheer walls with bare hands and feet, move with blinding speed and endure unspeakable hardship and pain. One of the two most dangerous men on the face of the planet. Stormshadow was once a master of the Reissued ninja clan. Now he sells his arcane skills to the evil forces of Cobra in order to pursue his twisted plan for revenge against his former sword brother. Snake eyes, ninjas, a mystic warriors, spies, master swordsmen, acrobats, conjurers, and tricksters. They can do all sorts of amazing things, or at least seem to do that, because the ninja's prime directive is embodied in the major precept of the ancient warrior Saint Sun Tzu, who said, all warfare is based on deception. This should give Cobra pause to consider. consider the loyalty of Stormshadow and ponder the question, what does he really want? Update. Now the true Stormshadow is an agent of G.I. Joe. His many clones, however, are genetically created to be loyal Cobra ninjas. Thus Cobra Commander still maintains the Arashikage skills for his most deadly ninja minions. Submitted by General Hawk. The great ninja assassin clans disappeared 100 years ago. If they were wiped out, nobody took the credit for it. And if they're still around, who are they working for? Stormshadow in his own words, a ninja